We've waited a long time for this one. Since 2020 and the debut of the original Samsung Galaxy Chromebook, we've only seen diminishing returns from Samsung in the Chromebook space. With each new device, it only became more and more clear that they no longer really took Chromebooks seriously. But with the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook Plus, all of that is changing. Gone are the forgettable, cost-cutting, uninspired design choices and slow, outdated internals we've gotten over the past 4 years, and Samsung is back in a big, big way. And I'm very happy to tell you about this new Galaxy Chromebook Plus and how it marks a new trajectory for Samsung in the Chromebook space. So let's talk about it. But before we get into all that, I want to extend a quick invitation to our awesome and growing Chrome Unbox Plus community. It's a place where a bunch of Google and Chromebook fans hang out and talk about all sorts of stuff and generally just have a really good time together. In there, you're going to get access to that community, access to Joe and myself, exclusive AMAs with the Chrome OS team. We had one recently with Stella Shannon and have one upcoming with John Miletus. There are exclusive giveaways. You get an ad-free experience on chromeunbox.com and on our podcast as well. It's a fantastic value at just $2 a month, and we'd really love to see you in there. So after you watch this video, head over to chromeunbox.com/join, and you can learn more there and get signed up. With most Chromebooks, we start with the chassis as a jumping off point before we talk about all the notable stuff on the inside. But with the Galaxy Chromebook Plus, it's a massive part of the overall story. Sure, there's a bunch of good stuff on the inside as well, but I don't think we've ever had a Chromebook with such a striking silhouette that I can remember off the top of my head. I'm not kidding. Every single person I've handed this Chromebook to has had a visceral reaction to just holding it. The 15.6-inch size married up with a 2.58 pound weight and 11.8 millimeter thickness just kind of feels a bit impossible. Even using this device for a couple weeks now, I get the same sensation every time I pick it up. It just feels wild to hold this thing in your hands. But thin and light only works if it's rigid too, and thankfully the Galaxy Chromebook Plus wins in that department as well. You can hold it from a corner with no flex whatsoever, and it feels 100% sturdy in your hand, on a desk, opened, closed. I mean, the engineering here is amazing, and this is the absolute epitome of well-made. I just can't stress enough how much I love the build quality of this Chromebook. But Samsung didn't use the excuse of this Chromebook being too thin to skimp on ports either. You get 2 USB Type-C ports, a USB Type-A headphone microphone jack, micro SD card slot, and yes, a full-size HDMI port. It's just kind of unbelievable in a device that's this thin and light. But it doesn't stop there. Cracking the Neptune blue lid open with a perfectly balanced one-finger lift reveals the gorgeous AMOLED screen, a fantastic keyboard, and one of the best trackpads I've ever used on a Chromebook. Now, when talking about any device, these three things, the screen, the keyboard, trackpad, make up the bulk of your interactivity. So when they're done well, it makes for a great overall experience. And make no mistake, Samsung has delivered on all three. The AMOLED screen is full HD and plenty bright at 400 nits. And while sure, I'd love to see a quad HD screen and 120 Hz, I understand that keeping the price at $699 just requires certain trade-offs, and this to me is an acceptable one. The display is flat out gorgeous, and even though it's not 120 Hz, there's no ghosting or artifacting anywhere across the OS, so things still look great with smooth animations, inky blacks, and amazing punchy colors everywhere you look. I mean, it's a Samsung AMOLED display. What do you expect? Now, it isn't touchscreen, and for some of you, that's going to be like a turnoff. But for me, I've become pretty used to not leveraging a touchscreen very often on Chromebooks, and it's just not been an issue at all in my use. Now, that being said, you need to know what you're getting into with this device. And if a touch input is a huge deal to you, just know that it's not going to be an option on the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook Plus. Now, underneath that beautiful screen is a clicky backlit keyboard that has pretty short throw keys that I've been really accurate with. On a device this thin, you're not going to get massive travel on your keyboard, but the feedback is great, the sound is quiet, and I've thoroughly enjoyed typing everything on this keyboard. The layout takes a little bit of getting used to, but we'll come back around to all that in a minute. And the trackpad underneath the keyboard is massive, glass, and just an absolute pleasure to use. Yeah, I'd love to see Samsung put a haptic trackpad in here, but I don't know that it would fit in the chassis, and I'm sure it wouldn't help that overall price tag either. Though this one has a more standard trackpad mechanism, it nails the execution, and I've loved using it. The surface is absolutely buttery smooth, the click is solid and confident, and all my gestures always work as expected. No complaints here whatsoever. Under the hood, we have the Intel Core 3 100U, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, and make no mistake, this device is very fast. For reference, I got Octane scores in the 90,000 plus range, and not once has it even come close to breaking a sweat. And if the fans have kicked on, I haven't even noticed. They are super quiet. And it never really gets hot, and battery life has been solid as well. Well, I'd have to keep the display down to like under 40% to even get near that 13 hours that Samsung claims. I've been able to get like 10 hours or so of use when sticking to around 60% brightness, and even pacing 5 to 6 hours when the brightness is up between 90 and 100%. You have to remember that OLED screens are battery hogs when you really get to the top end of their brightness, so you're going to kill the battery faster if you hang out up there for hours on end. If you stay south of that, you'll get all-day battery with no issue. Now, that's a ton of great stuff we've just talked about, right? I mean, it can't be all good. Well, of course not. And there are a few quirks with this Chromebook that do frustrate me a little bit. And the first one is the keyboard layout. The extra keys like the dedicated accessibility and dictation buttons are pretty great. And I'm really learning to start leveraging the new quick insert key as well. My brain's even beginning to remember to use the launcher key that's down in the bottom row now, and I'm making the mistake of hitting the quick insert key instead of that launcher key less and less as I use it. And those are all things I'll get used to, so I'm not too flustered by any of that. My real issue is with the numeric keypad on this device. It's missing the all-important keys on the right, and with that being the case, it's just really not that valuable. Numeric keypads should have a plus and minus and enter key down the right side. This one doesn't, and it makes doing calculations without looking down basically impossible. And isn't that the purpose of this section of the keyboard being added? And the decision to put this basically useless keypad in here means they couldn't fit upward firing speakers flanking the keyboard. And maybe that would have helped the audio out just a bit. As it stands, the downward facing speakers are mediocre at best. They're far too quiet to be coming from a 15.6 inch laptop. I mean, the tone's decent, but the overall volume is really limiting and kind of disappointing. And the same goes for the 1080p webcam up top. It's functional, but there are many webcams that simply do it far better. Samsung cheaped out here, and it shows. They hit the necessary resolution spec to keep it Chromebook Plus, but this one's about as bad as I've seen to this point, unfortunately. But those cut corners are pretty minimal in my book. Now, I can upgrade to a USB webcam if I need to. I don't listen to a ton of audio directly from my Chromebook speakers, and I don't actually use a numeric keypad very often. If those things are deal breakers for you, take note. I don't point them out just because I'm looking for something to nitpick. They're all legitimately subpar for a device that is otherwise wonderful to use. And I really do mean that last bit. For a person like myself, this Chromebook simply nails the necessities so well that I can just overlook the stuff it doesn't excel at. With this chassis, screen, keyboard, trackpad, performance, the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook Plus has been an absolute joy for me to use. I love having it at the office, at home, on my lap, in a coffee shop, or even on a plane. It really does marry up the big screen experience with a smaller device's portability. It looks really amazing while doing so. While I don't know if it's the best Chromebook for everyone, I think it's an amazing option for most of you out there. And at $699 every day, you'd be hard pressed to find a Chromebook experience that can match it. But guys, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, head down there, hit that subscribe button, and be sure to ring the notification icon as well if you'd like to be alerted when we make future videos just like this one. Until next time, we'll see ya.